Hi, this is Krista at the Secret Yarnery. Today we are making this gorgeous 3D Daffodil Granny Square. What makes this pattern so great is it is a real granny square. It's not an applique, so it's all built together, and we are just using basic crochet stitches to make this gorgeous flower. It is also part of the BloomScape CAL. That is a new flower center for a granny square every month that at the end of the year we are joining up into a gorgeous blanket. And yes, if you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, they're available over on my website, secretyarnery.com. And you don't have to worry about being able to read a pattern. All of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. If you want to make the BloomScape CAL, just go ahead and click that playlist in the description box down below or the cards up above, and you can make all of those gorgeous flower granny squares and turn it into a blanket at the end of the year. The finished size of this granny square is 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches, or 11.5 centimeters square. And for this 3D Daffodil Granny Square, I will be using 4 different colors of a 4-weight worsted acrylic. You will also need 2 crochet hooks, so I'll be using a 5mm and also a 4mm. If you're using a different size yarn, just use the yarn suggested on the yarn label and also a smaller hook, one size smaller. You'll also need a pair of scissors and a needle for sewing in your ends. So let's get started. So starting with the center color, I'm just using this orange. Make a slip knot any which way you normally do. Shrink that down and pop it on to your regular crochet hook, so my 5mm for my yarn, and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now into that very first chain we made right here on top of our knot, we are going to just push our hook in and make a slip stitch to form a ring. So just pop your hook in. You want a little U shape underneath your hook, and you want to hold that U shape open with your finger and thumb, and ideally your tail following along with it. We're going to work over our tail. So slip stitch to form a ring. Don't let go. Keep holding that open, and chain 1. Now into the center of this ring, we are going to do 6 single crochets. So now we can let it go. We've made that first single crochet and 5 more single crochets, so a total of 6. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, if I'm going too fast in this tutorial, you can just hit that little gear down below on the video and click a slower speed. You can also pause the video and get caught up. So now look for this 6th stitch, or the very first single crochet we made. You can always count your stitches back if you're not sure, but it's this guy right over there. We're going to pop our hook in, 2 strands of that stitch on the top of your hook, and slip stitch to join. And chain 1, just like that. Now into the very same stitch, right there, we're going to make 2 single crochets. So into that same stitch, there is 1 single crochet, and here is number 2. Now into each stitch, going all the way around, we're going to do 2 single crochets into each. So into the next stitch, 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, and 2 single crochets into the next. 1 and 2. So now you can pause the video and keep working along. 2 single crochets into each stitch all the way around. You'll have a total of 12 single crochets at the end of this round, and I will meet you when we get back to where we started. More left-handed crochet tutorials. There are more than 160 of my easy left-handed tutorials in this playlist right here. When you get back to your join, we're going to slip stitch into that first stitch we made. One slip stitch, just like that. And now we're going to change hooks. So just make a bit of a bigger loop, take your 5mm out and pop in your 4mm. And now we're going to be working into our back loops for this round, and we're going to start in that very first stitch right where we are. So this stitch here is going to be a smudge awkward, but we can do it. So we're going to just be working into these back loops. So we're only going to be picking up one strand for this round. So wrap your yarn, and starting right where we are, get that back loop on your hook, bring it through, and take off all 3 loops. So that is your first half double. If it is hard to get into that very first stitch, you could put 2 half doubles into the next stitch. It's really not that big of a deal. Just make sure you're going into the back loops. So the next back loop is right here. So just pop your hook in, 1 back loop, 1 half double crochet. And we're going to do this all the way around. So just picking up that 1 back loop and making 1 half double crochet all the way around. So you can pause the video and keep working along at your own speed, picking up that 1 back loop and making 1 half double crochet all the way around. I'll meet you when we get back to where we started. When you get back to where we started, we're going to slip stitch into this first real stitch right there to join. You could always count back 12 if you want to count. It is our 12th stitch from our hook. So we're just going to pop our hook in and slip stitch. And now we can just turn our work a little bit inside out so we can be working easily around our work. So just give it a little inside out, a little pop through, and chain 1. Now into the very same stitch, so right where we joined, this stitch right here, we're going to do 1 half double crochet. And again, you can mark that stitch with a stitch marker if you're not sure which one it is. You can just go like that. And now 1 half double crochet into each stitch. And now we're going underneath both strands, just like usual, like regular crochet. So pause the video, 1 half double crochet into each stitch all the way around, and I will meet you when we get back to where we started. When you get back to where we started, we have done our 12 double crochets, and that is our first stitch right there. So that is where we're going to join. So you can pop that stitch marker out and slip stitch to join. Just like that. If you want to have a shorter center, you can go on to the next step from here. But I like my centers to be the same as the petals, like an accurate daffodil. So I'm going to do 1 more round, but if you want it to be shorter, you can just move on to the next round from here. So 1 more round of half double crochets, chain 1, wrap your yarn and into that very same stitch. Right there, 1 half double crochet. Again, you can mark that stitch with a stitch marker if you want to. And 1 half double crochet into each stitch all the way around. So pause the video and 1 half double crochet into each stitch, and I will meet you when we get back to where we started. So there we go. When we get back to where we started, we're still going to slip stitch into that very first half double crochet that we made. So slip stitch to join and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now into the next stitch. So right here, we're just going to be working into our stitches for this round, just like usual. So into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, chain 2, 1 and 2, and into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, chain 2, 1 and 2, and into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, chain 2. So you can pause the video and keep working along. 1 single crochet with a chain 2 into each stitch all the way around. and I will meet you when we get back to where we started. So when you get back to where you started, I've finished my last single crochet, but I'm also going to do my chain 2. And now into the stitch where we began, 1 slip stitch to finish. So I'm just going to slip stitch and chain 1. Cut your yarn, pull your hook up and your yarn through, snug that down to secure, and sew in your tail. And that finishes our first color. To start our second color, just get a loop of yarn, and we want to make sure we can see our back loops. So we want to make sure that we've insided it out so that we can be seeing, or actually it's our front loops, isn't it? We can be seeing these front loops right there, all the way around the edge. Want to make sure we can see those. So I'm just going to start into the front loop after our join. This is our join here. So I'm going to go into that front loop right after, right there. So now using my 5mm hook, just pop your hook into that front loop, or the loop that is left at the bottom of our center. Loop of your new color on your hook, bring it through and slip stitch with both strands to join. Drop your tail, just holding it along your work, and chain 1. So that counts as our first half double crochet. Wrap your yarn and into the next front loop. You can see your front loops just around this edge. They're just waiting for us right there. So we're just going to be going into each one. The next front loop is right here. So wrap your yarn and into that next front loop. 1 half double crochet, and 1 half double crochet into each front loop all the way around. So we're going to have 12 stitches for this round as well, just into that front loop. 1 half double crochet. So you can pause the video and keep working along. It's a little bit finicky, just getting that loop onto your hook. But 1 half double crochet into each, and I will meet you when we get back closer to where we started. If you're having a hard time working into your front loops, just pinch your work so just that ridge is sticking up. You don't have to work on it flat. You can pinch everything so that those front loops are just sticking up all by themselves. That makes it a lot easier to work into. So pause the video and I will see you when we get closer to the join. When we get closer to the join, this is when I like to count my stitches. So just make a bit of a bigger loop and get that hook out of the way. And we want to count these little V's along the top, or you can count your posts too. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, counting our join, where we did our join. So I just need to make 1 more half double crochet anywhere where this join is. So that's why I like to join after, or join my new yarn after my old join, so I can adjust where I want that one last stitch to be. So it doesn't really matter, just pick a spot that you can get into. 1 loop and make 1 half double crochet. And now we're going to slip stitch to join. So right into the center of that chain 1, just to pull that up and make it look like a real stitch. I'm just going to pop into that stitch and slip stitch to join. And chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So there it is, our chain 8. Now we're going to go in to the second stitch. To count your stitches, you don't count what's on your hook. So this is our first stitch, or our first chain. We want to go in to the second chain, and we want to be working into our chain just with 1 loop. So we're just going underneath that 1 loop, or that 1 top loop. We're not going in anywhere else. So just into the top of that chain. So just go in to your second chain from your hook and make 1 single crochet. Wrap your yarn and into the next chain, just that 1 loop. We're going to do a half double crochet, 1 half double, into the next chain. Right here, we're going to do a double crochet. So wrap your yarn and 1 double crochet. So our stitches are slowly getting bigger. Into the next 2 chains. So just that top loop, so 1 and 2. We're going to do 1 treble crochet into each. 1 treble crochet. So there is 1, and here is 2. 1 into each chain, like that. And now we're going to start working our way down. So we're going to do a double crochet into that next chain, just 1 loop on our hook, double crochet, and into the last chain, we are going to do a half double crochet. So again, 1 loop on your hook and 1 half double crochet. And of course, pause the video if I am going too fast for you, or slow me down in the settings down below. Now into our next front loop only, this little guy here, we're going to slip stitch. So slip stitch into the next front loop, slip stitch, and slip stitch into the next front loop, right there. So pop your hook in, just 1 loop, and slip stitch. And now we're going to do this petal again. So chain 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and into the second chain, right there. That's where we're going to start our single crochet. So single crochet into the second chain, half double crochet into the next, double crochet into the next, wrap your yarn twice, 2 treble crochets, 1 into each of the next 2 chains. So there is our 1 treble crochet, wrap your yarn twice, and into the next chain, the same thing, 1 treble crochet. Just like that. Now wrap your yarn into the next chain, 1 double crochet, double crochet, wrap your yarn, and into that last chain, just 1 loop on your hook, we finish with 1 half double crochet, just like that. So we've done 2, or we've started 2 of our petals. Now we're going to do slip stitching into 2 stitches, not into this chain where we are. We're going to slip stitch into the next front loop, and we're going to slip stitch into the front loop after that. So each of these front loops gets a slip stitch. So into the next front loop, slip stitch, and into the next front loop, slip stitch. And now we're going to do our petal again, and we're going to repeat this all the way around. So you're going to do your chain 8, and then work your way down, single crochet into the second chain, half double, double, 2 trebles, double, half double, slip stitch into the front loops. So you can pause the video and keep working along, and I will meet you when we have done 6 of these petals and we are back to where we started. When you get back closer to where you started, just count to make sure you have 6 of these petals started, and if you don't, then you still have to do 1 more. So just keep going until you have made 6. So when you have your 6 petals, we just have to attach the 6th one. So again, slip stitch into that next front loop, or the next loop, just like that. And now we're not going to go into that next stitch. For right now, we're just going to wrap our yarn, and we are going to start going up the other side of our petal. So right where our stitches start, that is the spot we're looking for. We're going to work in right to the base of the stitch we made. There's a little stitch, a little hole, a little chain right at the bottom of each of those stitches, and that is where we are going to be working into for working up our petals. So into this very first space, this very first chain right there, we are going to do our half double crochet. So we're just going to mirror the stitch we did on that petal. So now we start with our half double, wrap our yarn, the next base of the chain, or the next base of the stitch into that same chain is a double crochet. Wrap your yarn twice and into the base of our next stitch, we're going to do our treble crochet. So right where that other stitch started, we're doing the same stitch. We're just mirroring what is done on the other side of our petal. So there's our treble, and into the base of our next stitch, right there, we are doing our treble crochet. That's our second one, like that. And into the next stitch, or into that next chain, at the base of the stitch, double crochet. And into the base of the next stitch, half double crochet. So you can see our petal is coming along nicely. And now into this little spot right here. The top one's a little trickier to see, but it's right here. We're just going to work in and do our single crochet. So that finishes this side of our petal, so they match now. Go ahead and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to slip stitch down the other side. So we're going to slip stitch into this first stitch right here, the top of that single crochet. So just pop your hook in and make one little slip stitch like that, and slip stitch into the next stitch. So there is 2 slip stitches, and those are nice and tight because we want the tip of our petal to be a little bit snug. So now pull your hook up a little bit. The size of your stitch is the size you want your loop to be on your hook. So now slip stitch into that next stitch, but not a loose slip stitch, like that. Pull your hook up again. You want this to be about the same size as your next stitch. So that big and that big. Slide your hook into that next stitch and slip stitch. Pull your hook up a little bit to give yourself a bigger loop and slip stitch into the next stitch. Pull your hook up a little bit and slip stitch into the next stitch. We're just working our way down and slip stitch into that last stitch. So now we're right back down at the bottom of our petal. Wrap your yarn, and we're going to do that again. So working up the next side. So we're not doing any slip stitching into the bottom. We're just going in to that last stitch on the side and then jumping over to do our half double crochet into the next petal. So 1 half double crochet. So it'll look like that. And now keep mirroring your stitches all the way up. So 1 double crochet into the next, wrap your yarn twice, treble crochet into the next, and again pause the video and get caught up if I'm going too quick. Wrap your yarn twice and into the next stitch or the next chain, treble crochet, and into the next stitch, 1 double crochet. Into the next is our half double, and into the last at the top, just this little spot right there, is our single crochet. So single crochet and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And these can be small chains. You can make some tension, you can make them small. That's great. And now into this first stitch on the other side, that single crochet right there, that is where we are going to slip stitch to. So 1 little slip stitch, and we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. So we're going to do 2 slip stitches, just small ones, and that gives our petal a nice little top. Now pull your hook up. We want a larger loop going all the way down the side of our petal. So 2 regular slip stitches and then larger slip stitches the rest of the way down. Just keep pulling up your hook and sliding it in to the next stitch and doing a slip stitch all the way down along this side. Like that. And this is our last stitch right there that we're going to slip stitch to. And after that slip stitch, we don't have to pull up our hook anymore. We're going to wrap our yarn and we're going to go and start our next petal with our double crochet right into the bottom of that first stitch. So 1/2 double crochet. And I can pause the video and keep working along, going up the side of your petal, chaining 3 and slip stitching into the first 2, and then slip stitching with big slip stitches the rest of the way down until you get to that last stitch where it's easy to get into. We're not working right down at the bottom, just this last stitch. That's the last place we're working into on our petals, and then jumping over with a 1/2 double crochet into the next side. So pause the video and keep working all the way around, and I'll meet you when you get back to where we started. When you have worked down your last petal, we are going to slip stitch into the second stitch of the next petal. So not our 1/2 double, we're going to go into this double crochet right there. So not into the very bottom, we're just going to go into that next stitch. So slip stitch to join, like that, and chain 2. 1 and 2. So now our flower looks like this, and we're going to turn it over. We're going to start working into our back loops, these ones that we let be free. So I'm just going to go down into this back loop right there. So whatever's right underneath, it doesn't totally matter. So just go down and find a back loop that is waiting for you. Shrink your yarn down. We're going to do a slip stitch to join. So 1 slip stitch and chain 1. Now we're going to be working into these back loops all the way along the bottom of our flower. So again, pinch your flower so that little ridge is sticking up and you can work into these back loops. Just give it a little pinch like that, and then you can see where your back loops are a lot easier. Now into our same loop where we are, 2 1/2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and into each of the next 2 back loops. Now our join is here, so it's a little bit harder to see. And now into the next back loop, which is on the other side of the join for where I joined my yarn. Right here, we're going to do 3 1/2 double crochets, 1, and just pinch your flower so that back loop is sticking up like on a little ridge, just like that. So there's our 3. And into our next back loop, which is right there, 3 1/2 double crochets, just into that back loop, just into that loop, 1, 2, and 3, and into the next back loop we're going to do 2. So we're doing 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 3, all the way around the bottom of our flower. So 1 and 2. Into each of the next 2 back loops, 1 and 2, 3 double crochets into each. 1, 2, and 3, and into the next back loop, 3 1/2 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Into the next back loop, we're just doing 2. And remember, pause the video and get caught up if I'm going too quickly. There's 1 and 2. So now I can pause the video and keep working around 3, 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, or 3 1/2 double crochets, 3 1/2 double crochets, 2 1/2 double crochets, all the way around until we get back to where we started. So now when you get back to where you started, you can just pull your hook up and get it out of the way for a minute. We're going to count and make sure we have 32 stitches going all the way around. So count 32 stitches. 31 and 32. So that is great. If you need to add or take away a stitch, just go ahead and do it in this area. It doesn't matter. No one's really going to see your stitch count. It's exactly evened out, but we want 32 stitches going all the way around. So now we're going to slip stitch into the top of that first real stitch to join. So just pop your hook in and slip stitch to join. Chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, long enough tail to sew in later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. And that finishes color 2. To start the third color, or our leaves, turn your work to the side. We want to be working into this row of half double crochets we made, and just anywhere past your join. So I don't sew in this tail yet. I want to keep an eye on where it is, and I'm going to go in to a stitch after it, just somewhere around there. Loop of your leaf color on your hook, bring it through, slip stitch with both strands to join, drop your tail, just holding along the back of your work, and chain 1. So this is going to count as our first single crochet, and into each stitch, working your way around, you can work over your tail for a couple stitches if you want, 1 single crochet. So 1 single crochet into each stitch. So just take your time, 1 single crochet into each stitch, all the way around. You can pause the video and I'll meet you when you get back to where we started. When you get back to where we started, you can go ahead and count that you have 32 stitches and do however many stitches you need into this join to get your 32. So the join gets 1 single crochet, and as long as you've had 32 stitches before, you should have 32 stitches now. But you can go ahead and count them just to make sure you have 32. Now into the top of this first chain we made right there, we're going to just slip stitch right into that chain. Just right there, slip stitch to finish up that round, and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. So that counts as our first double crochet, and we're going to work into that very same spot. This is going to be our corner right here. So wrap your yarn and 1 more double crochet into that same stitch or that same spot, and chain 2. 1 and 2. So now we're going to skip 2 stitches, skipping 1, skipping 2, and working into the third. Right there, we're going to do 1 single crochet, chain 2, 1 and 2, skipping 1 stitch. So we're just going to skip 1 and work into the second right there, 1 single crochet, chain 2, 1 and 2, skipping 2, so skipping 1, 2, and working into the third, we're going to do a corner. Corners, 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2, chain 2, 1 and 2, and 2 more double crochets into that same stitch. 1 and 2. So there is our corner, chain 2, 1 and 2, skipping 2 and working into the third, 1 single crochet, chain 2, 1 and 2, skipping 1 and working into the second, 1 single crochet, chaining 2, 1 and 2. So it's always a chain 2 for this round. Skipping 2 and into the third, right over there, we're going to do our corner. Corners, 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, chain 2, 1 and 2, and 2 double crochets to finish off that corner. 1 and 2. Chain 2, 1 and 2, skip 2, and into the third, 1 single crochet. Chain 2, 1 and 2, skip 1, and into the second, 1 single crochet. Chain 2, skip 2, and into the third, 2 double crochets, chain 2 and 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets into that same corner, or into that same stitch to make a corner. Just like that, and chain 2, 1 and 2. So skipping 2 and into the third, 1 single crochet, chain 2, 1 and 2, skipping 1 and into the second, 1 single crochet. And now we are back where we started. So do your chain 2, 1 and 2, and into that very same stitch or that very same spot where we started our other double crochets and our chain to start, we're going to go into that same space and finish with our 2 double crochets. So 2 double crochets. There's 1 and 2, chain 2, 1 and 2, and we're going to slip stitch to the top of that first chain 3 to join. Just right there, we're going to slip stitch. So pop your hook in. You want 2 strands of that chain on the top of your hook. Slip stitch to join, and chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. And that finishes the third color, or your leaves. To start the fourth color, or turning it into a box, just find any corner space and pop your hook in. Loop of your fourth color on your hook, or whatever you're using for your granny square. Bring your yarn through, slip stitch with both strands to join, drop your tail, just holding along the side of your work, and chain 2, 1 and 2. So this counts as our first double crochet. Wrap your yarn and into that same corner space, 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. Jumping over into this next space, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Into the next space, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. And into the next space, 3 double crochets. So each space along the side gets 3 double crochets into each space. Just like that. Now at your corner, if you have your tail, just bring your tail forward so we can work over it. So wrap your yarn and into that corner space, working over your tail if you have a tail in that corner. We're going to do a corner, and corners for this round are 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets all into the same corner space. So there's my first 3 double crochets, and you can slide those stitches back to give yourself some more room. We want all of our stitches laying side by side in our corner. So chain 2, and into the same corner space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Jumping into the next space, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. 3 double crochets into the next space. 1, 2, and 3, and 3 double crochets into the next space. So each space along each side gets 3 double crochets. So your sides will look like that, and your corners will look like this. So into your corner space right there, we're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So that's going to be our corner for this round. There's our 3 double crochets. Remember, you can always slide those back to give yourself some more room so your stitches lay nice and flat. Chain 2 and 3 more double crochets into that same corner space. 1, 2, and 3. So now you can pause the video and keep working along. 3 double crochets into each space along the sides, and corners of 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets all the way along, and I'll meet you when we get back to where we started. When you get back to where you started into that corner space, we're going to do our 3 double crochets to finish that corner. 1, 2, and 3. So now there's 2 different ways to join. I'm going to show you first how to join and continue. If you're going to continue with the same yarn, chain 1, and we're going to single crochet to join into the top of that chain 3, making sure we have 2 strands of that chain on the top of our hook. So pop your hook in and 1 single crochet to join, and that ends you up right in the middle of your corner. Then you would do your chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and turn your work. If you're doing regular granny squares, 2 double crochets into this space and then keep going. And if you're doing the BloomScape CAL or finishing it like the English Garden Granny Square, you're just going to pop your hook into that next space and do your single crochet. So either which way you're going to keep going, that is how you join and continue. If you're finished with this yarn color, this is how you join and end. To join and end, you're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 to join. So slip stitch to join. Chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. Sew in your ends and you're finished. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I'm waiting for you in that video right there, and stay hooked.